Take a look at the goal, a rib with a sticky, sweet caramelized crust, where the meat pulls cleanly away from the bone. To get there, you need a few core components: your rack of ribs, a multi-spice dry rub, braising liquids, and a finishing glaze. And it doesn't matter if you're running a high-end backyard smoker or your standard kitchen oven. This method works the exact same way across the board. Combining this three-step sequence with the bend test provides a physical benchmark for tenderness. It avoids the common mistakes of pulling the meat while it's still tough or letting it oversteam until it loses all structure. Step 1 is prep. Flip your raw rack over so the curved bone side is facing up and the thicker meat side is resting on the board. You'll see a thin, shiny membrane covering the bones. Slide a dull knife under an edge to lift it, grab that edge with a paper towel for grip, and peel the whole thing off. Do not skip this. If left attached, that silver skin creates an impenetrable, chewy barrier that blocks your spices and ruins the texture of your final bite. With the membrane gone, apply your dry rub. Shower the spices heavily over both sides of the meat. Then just pat them down so they adhere. Actually rubbing the spices will tear the meat and clump the seasoning. Taking the time to properly trim and season the raw rack sets your foundation. It allows the spices to penetrate deeply and gives the fat a chance to render cleanly over the long cook. After about 3 hours of dry smoking or baking, the bark has formed, and it's time to transition to the braising phase. For this, you need heavy-duty aluminum foil. Lay the ribs on the foil and add your braising ingredients directly onto the meat. A standard combination is pads of butter, brown sugar, and a splash of apple cider. Now, fold the edges of the foil and crimp them together as tightly as possible. You are trying to create a completely airtight seal around the rack. If that seal is loose, the moisture will escape as steam. Instead of tenderizing, the ribs will dry out and turn incredibly tough. Place that sealed packet back onto your grill or into your oven for another 2 hours. Inside that packet, the trapped heat and liquid act as an engine. They steadily convert the tough connective collagen inside the pork into soft, melting gelatin, all while keeping the meat insulated and moist. Carefully pull the packet off the heat and open it up. Watch out for the trapped steam. It will be intense. Discard the hot foil and all that excess braising liquid, then move your ribs onto a clean baking sheet or directly back onto the grill grates. Next is the glaze. Brush a generous, even layer of your favorite barbecue sauce across the entire surface of the ribs. Place the sauce rack under a high-heat broiler or right over an open grill flame. You want the heat to bubble the sauce and set the glaze onto the meat. Keep a very close eye on this step. Because barbecue sauce is packed with sugar, it will scorch into bitter carbon in a matter of seconds if you walk away. This high-heat flash sear dries the surface moisture and sets the sauce, creating the sticky, caramelized bark that defines a finished rib. The moment the ribs come off the heat, you need to know if they're actually done. To do that, we use the bend test. Slide a pair of metal tongs directly under the exact center of the rack, clamp down, and lift it a few inches into the air. Look closely at the shape of the rack. A perfectly cooked set of ribs bows into a soft U shape, causing a slight crack in the top bark. If the rack stays rigid, the collagen hasn't melted. If it folds entirely in half or tears completely from the bone, it's overcooked. For a quick secondary check, insert a wooden toothpick into the meat between the bones. It should glide in and out with practically zero resistance. Every pig and every cooker behaves differently, so relying on a clock or a thermometer isn't enough. Trusting this tactile feedback guarantees the meat has reached peak tenderness. Once they pass the test, pull them off the heat and let them rest for 10 to 15 minutes. This allows the internal juices to settle back into the meat. When you finally slice into the rack, a sharp knife should glide straight through the meat between the bones without snagging or tearing. And then there's the bite. The meat pulls cleanly away from the bone with just a slight, satisfying tug, leaving a perfect bite mark instead of a mushy mess. Following this process, from the initial prep through the braise and the final tactile test, moves the cook past the luck of a timer to produce consistent results every time.